Listening, fill in the blanks.
Let's start.
The Greeks took calisthenics seriously not only as a form of military discipline and strength, but also as an artistic expression of movement and an aesthetically ideal physique. Indeed, the term calisthenics itself is derived from the Greek words for beauty and strength. We know from historical records and images from pottery, mosaics, and sculptures of the period that the ancient Olympians took calisthenics training seriously. They were greatly admired, and still are, today, for their combination of athleticism and physical beauty. You may have heard a friend whimsically sigh and mention that someone has the body of a Greek god. This expression has traveled through centuries and continents, and the source of this envy and admiration is the calisthenics method.
Sensible work practices are an important factor in the prevention of muscular fatigue, discomfort or pain in the arms, neck, hands, or back, or eye strain which can be associated with constant or regular work at a keyboard and visual display unit, VDU. It is vital that the employer pays attention to the physical settings such as workplace design, the office environment, and placement of monitors as well as the organization of the work and individual work habits. Operators must be able to recognize work-related health problems and be given the opportunity to participate in the management of these.
How is AI helping us? The leading approach to AI right now is machine learning, in which programs are trained to pick out and respond to patterns in large amounts of data, such as identifying a face in an image, or choosing a winning move in the board game Go. This technique can be applied to all sorts of problems, such as getting computers to spot patterns in medical images, for example. Google's artificial intelligence company DeepMind are collaborating with the UK's National Health Service in a handful of projects, including ones in which their software is being taught to diagnose cancer and eye disease from patient scans. Others are using machine learning to catch early signs of conditions, such as heart disease and Alzheimer's.
There's no denying that women around the world have made great strides toward equality in the past century. 100 years ago, women in the United States still didn't have the right to vote, and very few were allowed to pursue higher education or a meaningful career outside of their household duties. Fast forward to today, and more than 70% of women between the ages of 20 and 54 are active members of the national workforce. On top of this, 2015 marked the first year when women were, on average, more likely to have a bachelor's degree than men, and this trend is on the rise. But despite all this newfound opportunity, the prevailing societal attitudes about what women are historically supposed to value still have a long way to go. That's why we've partnered with SKI to learn more about all of the ways women are still pressured to stick to outdated gender norms. Women have won unprecedented rights thanks to the feminist movement, but as a society, we still expect women to prioritize family over career, or even over their own needs, says Sylvia Duchovice, president and founder of the Critical Therapy Center in New York City.
Unfortunately, many workplace policies regarding taking time off to care for family do not the changing times, Duchovici says. Both men and women suffer in their careers when they prioritize family, but women carry far harsher punishments. Their choice to take time off and start a family can result in lower pay and fewer promotions in the future. The right to family leave is not a woman's issue, it is a society's issue, a family's issue. Lashchik agrees with this sentiment. There should be more flexibility and benefits in the workplace, like longer periods of time for paternity leave. If paternity leave was extended, men could share a greater responsibility in child care, and they could also spend more time bonding with their infant children, which is beneficial for the entire family.
Key stem cell processes are ancient and common to many animal species. For instance, the complex WNT signaling system, which controls stem cells in developing embryos and, when uncontrolled, causes cancer, is very similar in all animals, including Hydroctinia and people. It's one of a handful of complex stem cell systems, each involving hundreds of elements, which have remained the same since Hydroctinia branched off the evolutionary tree that eventually led to us around 600 million years ago. Over the past decade or so, researchers have started to believe that stem cells first evolved in a creature even more ancient than Hydroctinia, whose soft body has long since dissolved in ancient seabeds. In this as yet unknown creature, the power of regeneration may have first evolved, says Frank, endowing all later animals with a basic toolkit for regrowing lost body parts, one which mainly lies dormant in present-day life.
The most successful robots so far have been storytellers, but they have only been able to hold human interest for a limited time. For the new study, researchers introduced a toddler-size humanoid robot into a classroom at a UCSD childhood education center. Initially, the researchers wanted to use a 22-inch tall model, but later they decided to use another robot of the QRIO series. The 23-inch tall, 58-centimeter tall machine was originally developed by Sony. Children of toddler age were chosen because they have no preconceived notions of robots, said Tanaka, the lead researcher, who also works for Sony. The researchers sent instructions about every 2 minutes to the robot to do things like giggle, dance, sit down, or walk in a certain direction. The 45 sessions were videotaped, and interactions between toddlers and the robot were later analyzed.
The researchers surmised that a long time ago one ingenious shark bay dolphin figured out that by prodding the sediments with a sponge attached to her beak, she could stir up these swim-bladderless fish without being hurt. Eventually, such technique became popular among other dolphins. But why do dolphins go to all of this trouble when they could simply snag a fish from the open sea? The answer is that the bottom-dwelling fish are a lot more nutritious. Some species also don't have swim bladders, gas chambers that help other fish control their buoyancy as they travel up and down the water column. In the Bahamas, where dolphins are also known to forage for bottom-dwelling fish, dolphins hunt partly by echolocating these bladders, which give off a strong acoustic signal. That helps the cetaceans find prey even when it's buried in sea sand. But bottom-dwelling fish, such as barred sand perch, which are favored by some shark bay dolphins, don't have swim bladders and so are harder to find with echolocation. The sea floor is not nearly as soft here as it is in the Bahamas, so if dolphins want to probe for these fish, they risk injuring their rostra.
Artificial intelligence can also help us manage highly complex systems such as global shipping networks. For example, the system at the heart of the Port Botany Container Terminal in Sydney manages the movement of thousands of shipping containers in and out of the port, controlling a fleet of automated, driverless straddle carriers in a completely human-free zone. Similarly, in the mining industry, optimization engines are increasingly being used to plan and coordinate the movement of a resource, such as iron ore, from initial transport on huge driverless mine trucks, to the freight trains that take the ore to port.
Fire drills are a big part of being safe in school. They prepare you for what you need to do in case of a fire. But what if there was a fire where you live? Would you know what to do? Talking about fires can be scary because no one likes to think about people getting hurt or their things getting burned. But you can feel less worried if you are prepared. It's a good idea for families to talk about what they would do to escape a fire. Different families will have different strategies. Some kids live in one-story houses and other kids live in tall buildings.
Like, share, subscribe the channel, and press the bell icon for further updates.